was boring. It was a bit one-dimensional, and that draw against Fulham. I know they got the late goal cancelled off, which was very close, but they didn't offer too much in that final third.
Well, at the moment, they're relying very much on set plays. Every time the ball goes out for a corner, they think they can score. Yes, they're not at the moment playing quite as well in the top third of the field as they once were, or they were at their very best when Odegaard, Saka are combining brilliantly down the right-hand side. Wright is trying to make forward runs. I thought they were hampered a little bit by Jorginho having to play in central midfield against Fulham because he's somebody that can't run, and we saw that when Pereira ran away from him. And Partey at right back. I think he's better in central midfield, and it allows Wright and Odegaard to play that little bit further forward. But at the moment, I still think Arsenal are title challengers. I still think they're a good side, and I think they're going to win most of their games from now till the new year.
That saying, if you're one of the coaches at Arsenal or a teammate, you're I was going to say strangle. It's a strong word. You're having a serious word with Martinelli, are you not? I mean, that's schoolboy stuff.
Yes.
Because before the ball's played to him, he's probably already made his mind up. He's going to take a touch back inside and whip it in. So therefore, he doesn't even need to be even within a yard or two of being offside. And it's small details. When they talk about the set pieces, it's all about details. These are small details that an international footballer, doesn't need to get himself in that position. Even if he is going to take the full back on, keep yourself a yard or two onside, because you take the ball in, you've got plenty of pace. But to be in an offside position from that build-up from an experienced player was pretty unforgivable, to be honest. And that wasn't the only thing that cost him, but it did cost him the winner, basically. Yeah. But you're right, it was a decent away performance. Fulham have been their bogey team.
Mm-hmm. 5 points last
But we all still expected Arsenal to go there, exert their authority, completely bossed this game and really worked Leno in the goal. They didn't really do that, if we're being honest.
Mark, have they got a good enough squad to both play in Champions League and the Premier League every week and fight on both fronts?
No, I don't think they have, and I disagree with the guys a little bit. I think Chelsea, Liverpool's closest challengers. I think that Chelsea have got.
Wow.
I don't know. There's a ruthlessness about Chelsea. I think that the squad of players look a little bit hungry to me. I look at the Arsenal team, and I think sometimes that they're just happy to be, regarded as this great team that's pushed Man City all the way. I don't see Arsenal making that step forward. I think Mikel Arteta's, where's the next progression from Arsenal? It's not taking corners, surely. I think there's something missing. I can't put a finger on what it is, but I'm just not convinced by Arsenal. They don't score enough goals. I think Arteta just buys into some of the nonsense a bit too much, some of the gimmicks that he says, and I think that squad isn't strong enough. I mean, obviously they are suffering at the moment with injuries. Ben White's out, Kelly Foy's had injuries. They just lack something. They lack a bit of experience and ruthlessness. I think Arsenal. I think they come across as a squad of younger players who are just enjoying being where they are and not wanting to push forward and not being able to push forward. They haven't got that experience and streetwiseness that Liverpool have got or that Man City have got, and I think they lack that. They lack that little spark that Chelsea got. So no, I don't see Arsenal chancing the title. I think they're going to be third or even fourth.
We just talked about Nico Jackson for quite some time. A player who has improved. Of that, there is no doubt. And he's a big part of what Chelsea do. I got a bee in my bonnet about this, but I think I'm right. Does any of you guys out there, or anybody in here, want to tell me something that Kai Havertz did in yesterday's game? Because we can, and that's not to say that's why Arsenal played badly, but during any given time, over the last half a dozen games, you could say, "Whoa, Trossard did that," or "What about that Saka performance?" Or "Look at Odegaard back in the side." Just running around, winning the odd header and bumping into a centre half and pressing, as we keep being told they like is pressing. That's not going to be good enough. And
the problem is as well, if you're replacing him then with Jesus, it's nothing again.
I don't disagree. The alternatives are not great. That's on the recruitment, that's on the manager. He bought them both. But when you have a striker who you sit and scratch your head and go, what did he do? What did he do? Then what you have really is a bit of a passenger. And to win the Premier League, Man City did it without a striker, but they had an unbelievable squad when they were playing that false nine. Arsenal are not going to be able to do that. So they're literally playing without a top number 9 through the middle. And what they have is a guy who runs around, he works hard, he's got a good attitude, give you that, good professional. But we're not in well, you're a good professional. We're in the results business. You know, get results, and they have a big problem still, in my opinion, in that position. Oh, you'll get the odd goal against Southampton and people like that, and he'll work. But you're carrying a player. Can you win the Premier League carrying a player in one of the most important positions? I don't think so.
Go on, Mary.
But they knew that, though. They knew that ahead of when he came into the team. I always thought he was going to play around someone, but using him as the ultimate striker, they saw that this was. At Chelsea, I said it before. I said I didn't, as an ultimate striker, now and then put him as a striker. He could definitely, be a surprise factor. But all the time using him at that, the surprise is gone. And I think that is, like similar to what Greg said, that is a little bit the sensitivity what I feel. Also, how people play against Arsenal now. Everybody is closing the middle of the park. They close it down, and as soon as they win the ball, they go on the outside of them. They attack them right there. And that's what Fulham did. They wait, and all the teams, if you look at it, like all the teams that have the ball and want to keep possession for a long time, the teams that play against them, they sit back, keep it compact, and wait. The moment they broke out, you understand it. Tete got the ball. He's still in Jimenez, but that side where they slid in, you could see the changement. It was really quick how they come from the back, straight went to the opposite side. The only thing I still feel like when we talk about Arsenal, the corner kicks, I cannot understand seeing defenders defending the ball and just only watch the ball and never stand open. They just shut down the way they look at the ball this way. The whole team of Arsenal is behind them, and they never stand open. They just all watching the ball.
So the organisation and the decision-making when they're being counter-attacked or being played against just isn't good enough from Man City at the moment. Yes, in the last 20 minutes when they played their little football in and around the box, they looked threatening. They looked a decent side. But for much of the game, they were still far too easy to get at. And you can't win titles if that's the case.
Sorry, Robert. They're just an afterthought now, aren't they, Oggy?
You'd think so. I mean, you never know in Man City, but I think the gap to Liverpool is so big, and I think other teams have taken over City or gone past City right now because, like Robbo says, they've no legs in midfield. They're missing Rodri massively, but I just think there's a general malaise to the squad that I know Pep said last week they haven't got an old squad, but they have. They are getting old in key positions, and De Bruyne is 34 next summer. Gundogan's already 34. Kyle Walker's 34. Bernardo's in his 30s. It catches up with teams, and they've had a couple of windows where they haven't strengthened when they should have done, and they're paying a price now. Mateus Nunes came in 18 months ago, hasn't really kicked on, or hasn't really done it for City. So all of a sudden, those two quiet windows they're paying a price for it. So I think what we'll see with City, I think that obviously Pep has kind of held players back a little bit. I think get to March, April time they'll be flying, but the Premier League will be gone by then. I think Champions League keep an eye on City, but I think by the time they get to March, April, I think the league will be gone.
No chance.
No.
They cannot keep. I mean, they did keep a clean sheet against Forest, but they were very, very lucky to do so. They look stale, don't they? They look stale, and I think the manager's almost chucked the towel in, which I don't like to see because, he's had so much success, but it's almost like he's in his press conferences he's given up. He's saying, well, that's where we are, isn't it? And as Robbo said, not really, because they should be able to solve some of those problems of the defensive issues by keeping the ball better. But they're not. Even the football that they play isn't the sort of scintillating stuff, and the defending, well, that's just been a joke. So it's not just the gap to Liverpool; it's the gap and the way they're playing.
Just taking a look at where things stand. Wolves then currently sit second from bottom, 4 clear of Southampton. Meanwhile, that win for West Ham takes them up to 14th in the table. Manchester United, of course, sitting 13th at the moment. It was Dan Ashworth's fault. He has been sacked as his role of Director of Football. Here's lots of things that they've done. Obviously, he was part of the decision to keep Ten Hag, who spent £180 million in the summer. And then Ten Hag, of course, going in November, and he would then be sacked this weekend. Mark Ogden is with us, as is Robbo and Mary. Mark, why do I care about Dan Ashworth?
Well, you care about it because it's the circus of Man United. And it's just another element of Man United being a bit crazy. They hire a guy that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the new boss, said he's a 10 out of 10 sporting director, and then 5 months later they sack him. And look, it boils down to the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe just wasn't having Dan Ashworth. Like, he's got him in the building and thought that he's not what he expected him to be. He's not the kind of the ruthless, cutting edge sporting director he wanted. He's more of a structure builder, a club builder. So the role that he gave him wasn't really what he was suited for. So, who's to blame for that? Is it Dan Ashworth or is it Sir Jim Ratcliffe? And I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he admitted in an interview at the weekend with the fanzine that they'd made one or two appointment issues or mistakes since he took over. And I think they rushed the Dan Ashworth appointment. They appointed him on the basis of his name, of his reputation, that he's a guy that within the game was well known as doing well with England and Brighton and Newcastle. But, when you start digging into what Dan Ashworth has achieved, I think you have to maybe question whether he is the 10 out of 10 guy that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was talking about. Was he the guy that turned Brighton into this fantastic recruitment engine that they have, or was that the owner, Tony Bloom? Dan Ashworth was the guy who let Victor Gyökeres leave Brighton for £1 million to Coventry when he was 23 years old. And look at Gyökeres now. He's the guy that oversaw the signing of Sandro Tonali at Newcastle when, he had that issue over his betting situation hanging over him. So he's gone to United, overseeing a summer of transfers. And I was told that the only transfer that wasn't driven by the club this summer was Matthijs de Ligt. Erik ten Hag wanted de Ligt, and after a bit of toing and froing, they decided to back the manager because he'd just given a new contract. De Ligt was signed. So that means that Joshua Zirkzee was Dan Ashworth signing and not Erik ten Hag. So, again, that isn't a great selling point for Dan Ashworth.
Was he the one who decided that Ten Hag should stay, Mark?
No, well, listen, I've had mixed messages on this. And I think in Dan Ashworth's defence, he didn't start till July the 1st. And he was on gardening leave, as we know, until then. So Erik ten Hag was retained in his post about 2 weeks prior to that. Now, that suggests that Man United were speaking to Dan Ashworth during his gardening leave, which is, not really allowed. But look, he would have had a say in it, but he wouldn't have had the overall say because he wasn't in the building at the time. So he can't have had the final say. It was a decision that was made from a position of weakness. United spoke to Thomas Tuchel, and Tuchel didn't quite fancy it at the time. He wanted to wait till the autumn. Then United won the FA Cup. The fans wanted Ten Hag to stay, and Ineos were backed into a corner. They had to make a decision, and I think they grudgingly decided to keep Erik ten Hag in place. Obviously, that didn't work out, and I think what the issue was when it was decided to make a change, it took too long for Dan Ashworth to press the button. By the time they did make a change, Omar Barada, the CEO, was the guy that was driving the appointment of Ruben Amorim. So that tells you that if the sporting director is not making the appointment of a manager, his days are numbered, even though he's only been there 5 minutes. So, that's how it goes. If it wasn't working, you've got to make the change. Yes, it's embarrassing for Man United, but I think that the mistake has been minimised by the fact they decided to get rid of him now before the January window starts, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe or Ineos feel that they might make more signings or let players go that may turn out to be mistakes if they keep the guy in charge.
If the Glazers, right, if the Glazers had headhunted Dan Ashworth, he'd gone on garden leave, they'd paid the money and they sacked him a few months later, people would have continued on with this narrative that I think was correct, that they were pretty clueless at running the football club. For a lot of it. They run big business and they're extremely rich people, but they made some dreadful decisions. So if they had done this, people would have been laughing at them like the laughing stock that they were at times for some of the decisions. Ineos at this moment in time have done absolutely nothing, apart from appoint a few other people, to make me think that they know any more about this business. They know about their own business, where they make a lot of money and have made a lot of money. But they've got this Sir Dave Brailsford in, who will run a cycling team. So what? What is it? What's a cycling team, Olympic cycling team or whatever it was, got to do with running one of the biggest football clubs or having given advice about one of the biggest football clubs in the world and how to resurrect this shambles? So I'm not convinced until I am convinced that these people are much more savvy in the football parlance than the Glazers and Ed Woodward and all the other people that were making crazy decisions that put United in this position, because Ineos thus far have done kind of something similar, including keeping the manager during the summer when everybody knew he was Mr. Dead Man Walking. Just crazy.
Just to clear up what gardening leave is, obviously when he was at Newcastle, he left his job there, but part of his contract meant that he couldn't do any other work in football until he started his new contract there with Manchester United.